Hi, Virgo. Welcome to your October 2020 Astro Forecast. It's Raina here. I thought I had already done your video because you're one of the ones that I would like to do first since you're, even though you're born in either late August or September, it still is closer to October than the other signs, like Aries, which I've already done. But in any case, I guess I didn't. So it's interesting because this is a good point to make about astrology and the zodiac wheel and the transits and how it all works out. Because as the month begins, the sun is in Libra. And for you, Libra is a sign right after you. So in the astrological wheel, that would be the second house. And the second house in the universal chart, where we assign certain rulers and attributes, therefore, Taurus rules that house. And so the second house is all about Taurian stuff. And so it's the money that you earn, it's your possessions, but it's also your self-worth, because that is a, non-intangible part of things of value, is how you value yourself. And so this is an earth house because Taurus is an earth sign. So even though in your particular case, the second house is Libra, which is an air sign, it's actually going to be comfortable for you to have transits in this area because it is a fellow earth energy. And what it represents is something that you understand inherently, which is about the material world. So practical matters may be front and center in your life. But we have 2 full moons in the month of October. Therefore, the second one is a blue moon on Halloween and visible to the whole world during a Mercury retrograde. Now, will that be very interesting in terms of the events that occur? We shall see. We shall see. On the first of the month, we have a full moon at 9 degrees of Aries, and this is for you, since you're a Virgo, this is falling in your 8th house. And the 8th house is, well, here's one of those things. This month, I might not do this in the future, but I am doing it this month. I'm talking about, which parts of the sign will experience these full moons and even the new moon, because it won't be the same. Because if you're born from 0 to 8 degrees, you will experience this in the 8th house, which is a very intense. This is Scorpio's house. It's very probing the shadow of the self. So the second house, that's very interesting. I didn't even think of it that way. The 2nd and 8th houses are both money houses. But the 2nd house is the money that you earn so that you have control over. The 8th house, you don't have control over because it is shared resources. It is money that is given to you by another party. And it's also, self-worth, the 2nd house versus the shadow or the parts of yourself that you kind of hate, disavow. And so in that sense, the 2nd house, the 8th house is like the polar opposite of the 2nd house. And it is. They're opposing signs and opposing houses. And so this full moon kind of shines a spotlight on that. And that can be uncomfortable. It's also the house of death and the house of money. So inheritances, finding out about an inheritance can be what is happening, and secrets coming out, just in general. For those who are born from 10 to, I hope I said 0 to 9 degrees. Those who are born from 10 to 29 degrees of Virgo will experience this full moon in the house right before that, which is the 7th house of committed partnership. So it's almost like having a full moon in Pisces for you. And this will expose, in some cases, certain aspects of your marriage or committed partnership that are not as you would want them. Sometimes, whenever there's a full moon, the sun is opposing it in the opposite sign, opposite house. So we're talking about in the first house of the self, we have the sun in in Libra, and this means that it may show how you are subjugating yourself, ignoring yourself, when you should be honoring yourself. To have the sun in that first house means that the self has to be given the warmth of the sun, the confidence. Maybe some event happens that infuses you with confidence, and so you can see that other person as they really are. But it doesn't have to be something bad. I mean, an example would be if you are living with somebody and you really want to get married and you realize that living with someone has its limitations, and you think that getting legally married, having a ceremony, is the ultimate sign of two people who are getting together. Now, I personally don't believe that, but some people do, and that's important to them. And so that could be a realization or a culmination. Full moons can bring things to their natural conclusion or the heightening of an issue, bringing it to its climax point. And so that means that when something is full, if you fill a cup of a little saucer, you can't fill it beyond a certain point. It starts spilling out. So that's kind of what the energy represents, is the furthest, I never know if it's farthest or furthest it can go. That can mean that people commit even more so, or that they split up. And remember, too, that it doesn't mean either one. It doesn't guarantee either one. Nothing does. Even when you have, transits in your personal chart, nothing is guaranteed. But you may see the theme crop up in one way or the other. That's the bottom line. On the 2nd, Venus goes into Virgo, and there's your sign. So this is really nice for being attractive. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking, I'm going to be hot, and everybody's going to, want to be with me. Not even thinking about that. Could be because the first house, which if it's in your sign, it's in the first house. It certainly can be a situation of the body being perceived as attractive, or you trying to beautify your body. Could be that. But attractive means something energetically. It means that you are attracting good to you. Actually, Venus can be money. So would you like to attract money to you? Yes. But Venus is charm. And I suppose these days charm is considered to be some kind of phony behavior. But I see it as something that really stands out when there's a lot of self-centered behavior, or just uncouth, not being very, being rough around the edges, that can make others impressed with you. and you attract good to you if you're looking to get a new job, if you're looking to get a raise or a promotion, if you're looking to meet somebody, like maybe you're going out on dates and people say, gosh, I really like that person's personality. I like how they carry themselves, and I want to be with that sort of person. On the 4th, Pluto turns direct at 22 degrees of Capricorn, fellow Earth sign. And speaking of all of these things with love, I mean, Pluto has been in your 5th house. So for those of you who are single, or just, it actually doesn't have to be single, but the 5th house can be love affairs or dating, falling in love. And it's possible during a transit like this that you actually date a Scorpio, because that's one of Scorpio's rulers. But, or, on the flip side, or maybe in conjunction with that in some cases, somebody who's an obsessive partner, lover. I said partner, that's more of the 7th house, but that somebody that you meet who's very obsessive. Now, even though Virgo is a feminine sign, I always think of Virgo as rather solitary. Maybe that's why they're the hermit, or you're the hermit. And I don't think of Virgos as always that. I think that you're tougher than you look or act. Sometimes Virgos can be doormats if they allow themselves. If you have Venus in Virgo, you may really want more than anything to help your partner to improve their life. You have to know what is yours to help. Sometimes helping is enabling. Sometimes you get caught up in other people's problems, and that turns into codependency. However, at the end of the day, you're not Pisces, you're opposite sign. You're Virgo, you're an earth sign, and you see things realistically. You're very analytical, maybe almost to a fault. I should know, I have the moon in Virgo. And, in those types of scenarios, you can see things realistically. It may take a while for you to throw in the towel, but you will do so if you feel like you can't improve the situation. So, I think that for some people, they have to learn more about those boundaries. For other people, for other Virgos, they're perfectly capable of moving on to the next thing if they feel something isn't viable. And Pluto turning direct in this 5th house can certainly mean that you have been through a lot romantically in the last dozen years, in one way or the other. Maybe you've totally changed your attitude towards love itself. And maybe some of those things that I described were exhibit A on why you did that, because you might have felt that love doesn't have to be painful, that people need to assume responsibility for their own lives. But it could have put you through the ringer. It could have, somebody else may have, brought you down. I think of that song, one of my favorite songs by the Gin Blossoms, I'll follow you down, but not that far. And that's how I feel when you have Pluto in the 5th house, is that somebody else is transforming you because of their demons, even in some cases. I've been joking that Pluto direct and Pluto retrograde might not be that much different, because Pluto's already digging deep into, the person's psyche and kind of rooting out attitudes that just are not part of their part of stagnation and not change, not transformation. That's what Pluto is all about. By the way, those early Virgos, sun and rising, you're having the full moon on the 1st in that area of transformation, the 8th house. So that is part and parcel of what Pluto represents. And so it's going to continue maybe in a more mundane versus psychological way, where other things that are connected to the 5th house, which could include creative projects. If you are an artist and you have had a creative block because Saturn has been in here, then you may start to feel better, like you can get past them. On the 13th, we have a Mercury retrograde. Seems like we just got through with one. We did just get, in July, it's like, well, time has been going so quickly, I guess. And this is 11 degrees of Scorpio. And Scorpio forms a nice angle to you. A lot of these transits are forming nice angles to you in Earth and now water. 11 degrees of Scorpio, and this is your 3rd house. Now, the 3rd house is Gemini, but the ruler of Gemini and Virgo is Mercury. So you do have a connection to this house in your own way. And so Mercury retrograde in its own house. Wow. Some of you will actually be experiencing this in the 2nd house of earned income if you are born at 12 to 29 degrees of Scorpio, sun or rising. Now, that means that you have to watch out for, checks in the mail that might get lost, or just kind of contracts that involve money. For the rest of you, where this is happening in the 3rd house, 0 to 11 degrees of Scorpio, this can be a time when you watch your mail. This could be about mail in general, the communications, because that can get mucked up in some way. Watch your words, because your words may come out wrong, more convoluted than usual. People may misunderstand what you're trying to say. You may misunderstand what other people are trying to say. Could be some kind of a misunderstanding between you and a neighbor, you and a sibling. But it gets sorted out. These are very short transits, 3.5 weeks. On the 16th, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Libra, and that falls in that 2nd house of earned income for the vast majority of you. For the vast majority of you. For those born 24 to 29 degrees of Libra, the last few degrees of the sign, sun or rising, this will actually fall in your 1st house of the self, which is good too, because that means that those late degree Libra people are finally having the beginning, their first new moon of a new cycle. So, set your intentions. Setting your intentions can be as simple as thinking about what it is that you want to accomplish in the next year. If you think about this, there are so many different types of people in the world, but I really think there are the super anal planners, and I'm sure there are a lot of Virgo people that fall into this category, who just love to plan, love to schedule, and things like that. And there are the people who, and then they actually follow through. And then there are the people like me who love to plan and schedule, and then I'm always looking at these notebooks of what I'm going to do. And, sometimes I do them once in a while, but that's kind of the middle ground. And then you have the people that don't even think about those things. And there's nothing to put down with those types of people, because some of them may simply be living life in that moment to such a degree where they have so much on their plate that they don't think in terms of taking time out for themselves to imagine a different way of doing things. They're living in the moment. Who knows? Who knows if some of them are advanced yogis and they know and they don't feel like there's anything other to do but be in that moment. So, life is a funny thing. But for those people who you have it in your first house, this may feel like a time when everything is starting to begin anew. For those who have it in the second house, which I say is the vast majority of you, this can be some new development with the money that you earn. Perhaps it has something to do with career matters. Certainly in the next year, career matters are going to be front and center because you're going to have triggers from Gemini in the 10th house of career. And triggers in the form of the North Node, which is currently there, transiting North Node, obviously. Solar and lunar eclipses, which are tied to the transiting nodes, and that can really change the landscape for you in the next year plus. So in any case, that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like to work with me and you'd like to have your chart interpreted, the transits coming up for the next year, check me out at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.